I have always believed that sewing is about making memories. Sometimes those memories are about people, things, or events from the past, and sometimes memories are created as we sew. We spend time thinking and praying about the person who will receive our creation, or we think about the milestone event where our creation will be worn. Memories are made of so many moments in time, and growing older teaches us just how much each moment and each person in our lives should be treasured. I'm so thankful that you have chosen to spend part of your life with me today. Let's create a few more memories to treasure for the future. Welcome to my sewing room. This is so much fun, the technique that I'm going to share with you. Do you remember the days when we used to do hand smocking, and occasionally we would take a tapestry needle and we would weave ribbon through that hand smocking? Well, this is sort of the look, but done with a machine. It's weaving ribbon through ladder work from the machine. This adorable house coat and gown are precious. It has the bias binding and then the ties. And this is what our technique is for today. These are machine stitches, and the ribbon has been woven through it. That same treatment is featured on the sleeves, such a pretty robe which is lined in this beautiful turquoise. Then over on the gown, the sleeves have the bias binding, the neckline, and this adorable technique makes a V in the front. Absolutely precious. The weaving is done with silk ribbon, of course. You know that's my favorite kind of ribbon. All right, the technique is just very easy. They're all done by machine. Have a piece of linen, a 3-inch piece of linen, and the fusible knit interfacing, maybe a 1-inch piece of that. Now you iron the fusible interfacing to the back of the linen, then put a tearaway stabilizer underneath it and mark the beginning point and the center line. It's very important to have the center line. Then the machine stitch it really looks like a ladder stitch, and it's mirror imaged one side and then the other side, and this is the little piece you're going to slip the ribbon under, slip the ribbon under, slip the ribbon under, and as you can see from the finished piece here, the ribbon has been woven over and under and over and under and over and under for a really, really, really pretty effect. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today my dear friend and business colleague, June Mellinger. June is Director of Education for Brother International. June, welcome to the show.
Hi, Martha.
Good to have you back.
How have you been?
I'm good, and I love this technique. Go ahead and show us what we're doing here.
Well, we have a really interesting technique. You know, everybody has machines today that have lots of decorative stitches on them, and sometimes you just run out of things you can do with them. So why not consider making a very unique look? Again, as we showed, we had a piece of handkerchief linen about 3 inches wide with a interfacing right down the center. And then we marked the piece as we turned it over, and we had the tearaway stabilizer for the back. We have it marked down the center, so we have a good marking point for when we're ready to sew. And here's again the example of the decorative stitch. That's sort of a ladder. In this case, it's got a lollipop look at the end, but I have another one we'll show you in a minute. So here we are with the results. I thought I'd take a second and show you how the decorative stitch is formed as it sews. And so we're going to use the machine here with selecting one of the decorative stitches for sewing. I'm using the edge of the presser foot as a reference against the straight line down the center of the fabric. When we're all done sewing, we'll be able to, as they say, press the scissor and remove the fabric from the machine and go on to this next step. If you look over here, look at the designs that I chose. Here's one that we simply, chose a ladder stitch and wove through that ladder stitch, and of course we could use a star stitch along the edge for some inspiration or a different look to it. But here's the finished look that I thought you might find interesting. We took this kind of a turkey stitch and we wove the silk ribbon through it, but when we were all done, we used another decorative stitch to go right down the center to sort of anchor it rather than have a problem with it pulling or anything when we're wearing it.
I think that is so pretty. And that second stitch you showed actually looks a little bit like smocking, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
These adorable house shoes that go with it.
Now, you know, everybody loves to quilt today, and sometimes you'd like to make a nice pair of slippers. So why not take that fabric that you use for the lining in the jacket
Sure.
and put some lightweight batting behind it and use your reference special quilting foot for your machine as your quilting guide and create this really pretty quilted fabric and then a pretty pair of slippers. And you know, if they want, people can pick up this slip-proof backing.
Turn that over so we can see that.
Slip-proof backing for the bottom of the slippers so that you don't slip as you're walking around in them.
Now, June, that is something new for me. I did not realize we could get the slip-proof backing, and that really makes the bedroom shoes a whole lot safer
Sure does.
on today's tile floors. June, thank you so much for this wonderful technique, and really, it's so easy, and I know a lot of times we don't use our machines to the fullest, and it's so nice to have another technique to use.
That's right.
All right, and now June has some sewing inspirations to share with you. June, I completely love what you have done here. Well, I'm just going to let you tell what you've done. It's so fascinating.
You know, Martha, everyone makes the big investment when they buy memory cards today. And often they sometimes stop at making one item, or they always put it on the same thing. Look at how many ways you can use a memory card on so many. It has such a different look.
Now, we have a lot of things, but sometimes people would just choose one and then that would be it. But the fascinating thing for you viewers and for me is that everything June has brought in this particular segment were done from this one memory card, and they all are so different. Okay, let's have some fun and get busy.
Well, recently I was at a trade show and we had a straw hat and we embroidered on it. Imagine that.
Imagine that. Of all the years I've been in machine embroidery, I have never seen a straw hat. It's fabulous. And then you use the same card to do this wonderful sheet and pillowcases. I'm telling you, June, more and more people are loving embroidering linens, sheets, pillowcases, and towels. So pretty. It looks totally different. And then these wonderful towels.
They've been personalized with a favorite monogram, so they have a completely different look to them as well. Now below that, the next
and then the quilt.
Sample is a quilt. And here we used a quilting technique, but also used the same design in totally different colors and added some lettering. And it has a special look to it.
And I have another surprise under the quilt. Look at this.
Again, imagine embroidering on black fabric with those bright threads and some more lettering.
Placemats and napkins would be wonderful. I've seen some purchased ones like that, and you'd have so much fun embroidering. Now, this beautiful jacket, which you had on in the first segment, I just had to show the back to our viewers. Oh, and this is the same design.
Same design, but look, it has a totally different look when you have the paisley fabric behind it, and it picks up the paisley shapes in the embroidery. Add some of those jewels that everybody loves to put on embroidery
I
today.
call those diamonds. Those
Lots
are
of
sewer's
glitz.
diamonds. Absolutely beautiful. And June, when I looked at this, I thought, uh-oh, this just speaks to me. This is one of the most fabulous jackets I've ever seen. And all of this came off of that one card, too. Look at this jacket with the wonderful buttonhole embellishments, the colors that go all the way down, and then the big surprise is on the back. Oh my, is this pretty or what? Looks very different from the straw hat and from that elegant, soft lavender and green jacket you had. And then, of course, all the sewer's diamonds put on the back.
That's right.
And this elegant, elegant table runner. And June, I really do use table runners a lot. I love to use them for family occasions and for times when a lot of the sewing ladies come to Huntsville. Right. You know, we have big groups at our house. This is absolutely beautiful.
Beautiful, isn't it? And the detail. Every time someone will look at these different designs on different fabrics, they will swear that you bought a new design card, and no, you didn't. You just changed out the fabric or the threads.
June, that's what's so much fun about sewing. It is creative, and we really are the designers, aren't we?
That's right.
And now June has a so quick, so easy project for you. This is the most wonderful memory keeper. June, I just love it. You see, it folds over and ties when you're going to put it away. It has the little baby embroidery, but look on the inside. It says precious memories. And June, tell us about this now.
Well, you know, a lot of machines allow you to have a frame pattern, so you can use that to create a little pocket so that you can slip a photograph in there.
Organza
covers, so you can see through it. And then we have these separate pockets here, 3 pockets, so that we can insert some great memories. And you're looking at a great pair of socks. That was one of my children's socks with their diaper pin. And there's a special ring. That was my husband's baby ring.
Oh.
So lots of different memories. And a set of rosary beads from a christening, as we have, and so forth. So there's lots of things that you can put in one little packet.
So much fun. Show us how you did it. And it's easy.
It's not hard at all. All you need is some very pretty pieces of fabric, and you can put some lightweight stabilizer behind the top cover of the fabric, where you had a centered area there for embroidery. And we're also going to have some satin ribbon that we're going to embroider on, and we have some seam on the back of that, so that we can anchor this to this seam that we've turned here. And I'll show you what happens with that. You can see where we've turned the seam under, and we've put the satin ribbon on top, and we've anchored that down with some pretty decorative stitching. And then on the second pocket, you'll want to have the same use of the satin ribbon again, but you might want to section out the second pocket with a pretty decorative stitch right down the center. And of course, you'll then turn that right sides together, sew the seams, so that you'll have the pocket formed. This, of course, is still one layer. And the next part will be wanting to have this put together so that you'll have the right sides together, the single pocket here, and you can also put your double pocket on top of that as well. Once it's all together, you'll sew up the seams, and you'll want to be sure that you only have a very small opening so that you can pull it right side out. You don't want too much of an opening. And of course, you will have put your satin ribbon in here as well, so that when you're done, you have a very pretty look. And something that came to mind to me was, a lot of times people will have something that they've created just to do a sample of, and we actually use that to make a great little pouch with. So rather than throw away the sample, we actually created something with it.
Well, how nice. And I see one is for a lot. I mean, these could be used, these are adult presents here. How lovely.
One is for lingerie or any other things, maybe
or
jewelry
just
pouch.
Treasures.
Yeah.
A jewelry pouch would be nice, a travel jewelry pouch.
Sure.
Or just special treasures and pictures. June, thank you so much. You've just brought so many lovely things, and it's exciting to see you again. And now I have a home decorating project to share with you. Ribbon weaving is one of my favorite things to do. And I don't know exactly whether you can see it, but I think there's such a difference between a silk satin ribbon, and they were so hard to find a number of years ago, and now they're pretty readily available at nicer shops. This is so interesting. This ribbon is woven. Now you see it's fused down, and by the way, this is on top of silk dupioni. The ribbon strips, it's fused down in these areas, and everywhere it crossed over, as you can see, it is not fused. It's a beautiful pillow. It has piping made out of the silk dupioni, and then just a very simple back that has been stuffed. Okay, if you should happen to have a lace shaping board, and these things are wonderful, if you should happen to have a lace shaping board, then you do not have to trace the lines on the back of your paperback fusible. But it's okay if you don't have one, because all you need to do is use a Sharpie pen. You know, the water-soluble pens do not work well on the back of this paper, which is kind of a waxy finish. So on the paperback fusible, you're going to need to use a Sharpie on the back so you can see through. But if you have a lace shaping board, you don't need anything, because it has the grids as well as the lace shapes. All right, you're going to place your ribbons one piece at a time, following the grids, and then you're going to weave over and under and over and under. And the next board I have shows that the weaving has already been done. So let me move this Teflon pressing sheet. You see I've started on one side, over and under, over and under, over and under, over and under. Now let me give you one little trick. Before you start weaving each piece, after you for sure have it in the right place, use your Teflon press sheet. This is critical. Teflon press sheet, and just press down the very tip, just that little tip right there. Press down just that very little tip, and then it will be easier to control it as you weave it over and under. So then after you finish all of the weaving, you're going to press using this Teflon press sheet. It is so critical because the glue on that paperback fusible is going to now come off on your ribbon. Then the next thing you're going to do is to pick it up. See, let me show you what happens after you press you can pull the paperback fusible, you're going to pull it up, and there'll be a little bit of the gluey stuff left in there. We're going to pick up our piece, put it on top of the silk dupioni, and I think I have this in the wrong direction. Hang on just a minute. Now it's in the right direction. Once again, you must please bring this Teflon sheet to press it, and it will fuse this to the silk dupioni. After that fusing has been done, this is kind of what it looks like. And you can see that you can slip your, you can slip underneath the parts that cross there. It is such a sweet, sweet technique. And then you'll just make your piping. And this is kind of a wide piping. I kind of like a little bit almost fat piping on home decorator pillows because it really is such a pretty way to finish off the edge. Okay, you put your piping, and then you simply get your backing. And this is one of the most elegant pillows, and it would be so much fun to use it in different colors, or maybe even a lot of different types of ribbons. You could really, really make this to go with any room in your home. Wouldn't this be beautiful in a beige, brown, taupe colored bedroom? And now I have some hand embroidery to share with you. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today my very dear friend Beverley Sheldrick from New Zealand. Beverley has authored several books on needlework and is a regular contributor to So Beautiful magazine. Beverley, welcome to the show.
Oh, Martha, thank you so much for inviting me to be here with you and with your viewers. Now, Martha, today we're going to do these bleeding hearts, which you can see are here, and then just these little forget-me-nots. They're just very, very simple. So here we are. You will see that I have just put in one of these stems. This is just outline stitch, that lovely stitch that we know so well. And what I want you to notice here, viewers, is the fact that it's on a curve, because these need to drop. So there we are. There's the first part of that lovely little bell. Then we have the second part, which is really, of course, the first one reversed. And then you will see that I've got just that little open lazy daisy stitch down the bottom there in another colour, which gives it that bell section. And of course the little forget-me-nots are very, very simple, because it's really only a collection of French knots. But I don't want them to be all exactly the same. I want just something that just gives an illusion of a little forget-me-not. So don't try to have them all just bang, 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 bang. So it's a simple one there, and then of course I just put in a little outline stitch leaf and, a stem there, and then with the odd little lazy daisy leaf. If you look at the garment, you can just see that they're scattered along in a very irregular fashion. So here we are. You can see I've already started this outline stitch here. Remember, of course, to just keep the thread above the needle, and you're going all the way back to the previous stitch, like so. Now, of course, I'm sure you all know how to do that. Now we're moving to this section. You can see how I've come from here. I've already put my needle in there, and I'm going to come down like that, and I'm going to drop it just like that. That's so simple. And so here I am on this next one. You can see there's the first side there. I've gone back up to here, and I'm just going to take that stitch like that, do remember to get that angle on it, because otherwise you haven't got it wide enough to take it through like that. So there I am, and of course I'm taking this down. I'm not putting it straight beside, I'm taking it down just a little bit below like that. Now you can see on this one, I've come up on one side just at this point here, and I've changed colours, of course. I'm going to the other side to exactly the same point as we had before, and I'm doing that, pulling it quite firmly, and so there I am, and dropping it like this. You do find that you tend to get a slightly open section right in here, but that's okay, because we're after all, we're just giving illusions, aren't we? So there we are with this. So this bell will be hanging from starting up here, another one down there, and like this, depending of course on the size that you're making your bleeding heart will depend on how many you put in. But just remember that you do need to have a nice curve when you do your stem. Now of course we've got to the easy part, those little French knots. I just love French knots. There's so much we can do with them, and of course when you're doing them in silk ribbon, you are going to use just a one wrap, so it really is a true French knot. I know that people say anything above becomes a billion, sorry, a bullion, not a billion, a bullion. We might do billions of them. So there we are. So, but just pull them when you do them, just pull them tightly like this. And as I said, just make a little clump of them like this. Don't try to have something that looks as though it's paint by numbers. So here we are, and of course you can do these. I think on one of the christening gowns I did one time, I did them in stranded cotton, and they just look so sweet. So you can make them as small or as large as you want. Just remember to make them a random shape. That's the important part.
You know, Beverly, these bleeding hearts are perfectly beautiful, and I love the fact that you put some color on the white. So often we don't see color, and I love it. I think this should be a little portrait outfit.
It would. It could be charming, couldn't it? Just this little angel top.
Yes. Thank you so much, Beverly. And now I have a beautiful piece from my vintage collection to share with you. This dress holds such special meaning for me. It's California antique dress, and it was the very first pattern we ever produced in the very first So Beautiful magazine in 1987. I actually bought this at a doll show in California. It's the reason I called it California antique dress. This beautiful collar, and the dress is made, by the way, out of cotton netting. The beautiful collar has the hand embroidery, and I really love these very tailored straight sleeves. That's just as pretty for today as it was 100 years ago and in 1987. The skirt is beautiful with its hem stitching and tiny little fabric ruffles and big tucks, maybe an inch and a half tucks, more ruffles, more tucks, and more little ruffles on the bottom of the skirt. I'd love to show you the back of this. It's absolutely as sweet as the front, and this has always been one of my favorite patterns that we ever did in So Beautiful magazine. Now, for my Sewing from the Heart today, I have a really nice letter here from Linda Sapp. A friend and I made 77 personalized pillowcases for children ages 1 through 8 in foster care in our little town and next town, which is even smaller. We got the list from the children, youth, and families, and with the children's first names and a few words about their interest. We were able to match each child's interest with novelty fabric and embroidered each child's name on the pillowcase. The pillowcases were given to the state agency, who passed them on to the foster parents to include with their gifts under the Christmas tree that morning. We wanted these children, who so often were moved from place to place, to have something to call their own. Linda, thank you so much for your wonderful, wonderful volunteer work with the foster children. That is a very, very dear agency to me also. My sister is a social worker, as many of you know. Thank you so much for joining me in my sewing room today. I hope you've had fun, and I would really like to invite you to come back next time.